In April 2021, an investigation into the disappearance of assistant pastor Aliyah Hill began in Montgomery, Alabama. The main suspect in the case was her husband Marcus Hill, who was the church administrator at New Hope Ministries. Aliyah and Marcus had been prominent members of the community, with Marcus in charge of several administrative roles and Aliyah serving as an associate pastor. Aliyah Marie Carter was born on March 15, 1982, in Birmingham, Alabama. Growing up in a family with a strong religious foundation, Aliyah was always inclined towards faith and service. Her mother, Angela, was a well-known church organizer, and her father, John, served as a deacon in their local church. Aliyah's commitment to her faith led her to pursue a degree in religious studies from Liberty University. She often volunteered with local youth groups and helped organize various church events. In 2012, Aliyah experienced a difficult divorce which left her as a single mother to her son, James Carter Hill. Despite the challenges, she balanced her duties as a mother and church leader with grace. In 2015, Aliyah joined New Hope Ministries, where she quickly became a rising star. Her leadership skills, passion for faith, and personal integrity earned her the position of assistant pastor, where she thrived. Aliyah's ability to connect with others made her beloved by the church community, and she was seen as someone who would one day lead a congregation. Marcus Levi Hill Jr., born on July 8, 1990 in Montgomery, Alabama, came from a family deeply rooted in the local religious community. His father, Levi Hill Sr., served as a deacon at the same church where Marcus grew up, while his mother, Ruth Hill, was involved in various church activities, including Sunday school teaching. Marcus's early life seemed promising. He was well-liked and attended church regularly. However, his academic and professional life was marked by inconsistency. After graduating from high school, Marcus attended a local community college but never completed his degree. In 2017, Marcus began working at New Hope Ministries as a church administrator. His role involved handling the church's finances, event planning, and general organization. He was known for being detail-oriented and had a quiet yet authoritative demeanor. Despite his position, Marcus struggled with personal and professional relationships, often showing signs of insecurity and control issues. His outward charm and polished appearance often masked a darker side of his personality, which would later come to light in the investigation into Aliyah's disappearance. Marcus and Aliyah first met in September 2018 during a religious retreat in Huntsville, Alabama. The event, designed to bring church leaders and their congregants closer to God, became the setting for a connection that would change both their lives. Marcus was immediately drawn to Aliyah's intelligence, faith, and charismatic nature. She in turn admired his leadership qualities, although she noted his tendency to seek control in every situation. Their relationship moved quickly, and within 4 months Marcus proposed. The engagement was met with excitement within the church community, as many saw the couple as a perfect match, bringing together their strong faiths and leadership within the church. They married on January 12, 2019, in a grand ceremony at New Hope Ministries. Over 300 guests attended, and the event was broadcast live, showcasing the couple's apparent happiness. However, despite their outward display of unity, those close to the couple began to notice subtle signs of tension. After her marriage to Marcus, Aliyah's once vibrant and outgoing personality began to show signs of change. At first, those close to her chalked it up to the natural stresses of marriage and a busy ministry life, but as time went on, the changes became more pronounced. Friends and church members began noticing that Aliyah seemed more reserved and less engaged in social activities that she once loved. She had always been the life of church gatherings, a beacon of positivity and encouragement, but her enthusiasm began to wane. Aliyah was often seen withdrawing from her duties as an assistant pastor and reducing her involvement in community events. Her once energetic sermons turned into more scripted and mechanical talks, and she began to appear more distracted during services. Even her friends, like Sarah Thompson, began to see a change in their conversations. Aliyah, who was once open about her personal feelings and struggles, began to hold back. She started mentioning Marcus more frequently in conversations, but always in a way that suggested she was trying to shield him from scrutiny. It became clear that Aliyah was walking on eggshells around Marcus. This behavior change was subtle, but those who knew her best could sense that something was off. One of Aaliyah's closest friends, Rebecca Martinez, later recalled how Aaliyah had confided in her about feeling overwhelmed by Marcus's increasingly controlling behavior. Aaliyah mentioned that Marcus seemed to dominate their relationship, making decisions without consulting her and even controlling where she could go or who she could meet. While Aaliyah still outwardly presented herself as the strong, faithful woman that churchgoers admired, internally she was struggling to reconcile her role as a pastor and wife in a relationship that had become increasingly unhealthy. The final public appearance of Aaliyah and Marcus Hill occurred during the Easter service at New Hope Ministries on April 4, 2021. The church had always been a source of pride for Aaliyah, and she had worked hard to establish herself as a key figure in its leadership. The Easter service was typically one of the largest and most important events of the church year, with Aaliyah and Marcus playing central roles. During the service, Aaliyah appeared composed and confident, delivering an inspiring sermon on faith, renewal, and the power of resurrection. Marcus, ever the supportive spouse, was at her side, assisting with the technical and organizational aspects of the service. They both presented themselves as a united front, smiling for photos, participating in the worship service, and interacting with church members. However, those who were close to the couple noticed subtle signs of tension during the event. Aaliyah's smile didn't quite reach her eyes, and her voice seemed strained as she spoke. Marcus, while standing proudly beside her, appeared overly controlling in his interactions with the staff and even subtly corrected Aaliyah during her sermon. This small, seemingly insignificant moment spoke volumes to those who had been paying attention. It was as if there was a quiet battle between the public image they had crafted and the private struggle Aaliyah was enduring. For Aaliyah, this would be the last time she would publicly display her faith and leadership. The church community, oblivious to the brewing storm behind closed doors, applauded her dedication. The service ended with the typical celebrations, but to those who had observed her behavior, Aaliyah's struggles were clear, though not yet understood. On the night of April 15, 2021, neighbors in the Oak Park subdivision reported hearing loud arguments coming from the Hill residents. At approximately 9:47 p.m., a call was made to the Montgomery Police Department regarding a domestic disturbance. The caller described hearing shouting, slamming doors, and what sounded like things being thrown inside the house. The nature of the altercation seemed intense, enough to raise concern. When officers arrived, Marcus Hill answered the door calmly, stating that everything was fine. He claimed that he and Aaliyah had been arguing over theological differences, but insisted the situation had been resolved. Despite his apparent calmness, the officers noted the tension in the air. They asked if they could speak to Aaliyah, but Marcus said she was in the shower and couldn't come to the door. After a brief conversation with Marcus, the officers left, finding no visible signs of physical violence or distress inside the home. However, they noted that the situation seemed somewhat off. The tone of the interaction, especially Marcus's insistence that nothing was wrong, left a lingering sense that something more had occurred behind closed doors. On the evening of April 15, 2021, just hours after the reported domestic disturbance, Marcus Hill contacted 911, claiming that his wife Aaliyah had gone missing. He explained that the couple had been involved in a heated argument, and after the disagreement, Aaliyah had left the house in the middle of the night, taking her car with her. Marcus said she was not answering his calls or messages, and he was worried about her well-being. When responding officers arrived at the Hill residence, they found Aaliyah's car still parked in the driveway. This was puzzling, as Marcus had stated that she had left. Inside the home, there was no sign of Aaliyah. Her purse and other personal belongings were still there, and the house did not appear to have been disturbed. However, her phone, which Marcus claimed she had taken with her, was found inside the house, turned off. The officers questioned Marcus further about his wife's whereabouts, but he maintained that Aaliyah had left. No one saw Aaliyah leave the house, and no neighbors reported hearing the sound of her car driving away. This created immediate concerns about the credibility of Marcus's story. Investigators were starting to doubt whether Aaliyah had actually left voluntarily. Instead, they wondered if something more sinister had occurred. The initial investigation into Aaliyah's disappearance was launched quickly, with detectives examining the details of Marcus's report and the inconsistencies surrounding Aaliyah's apparent departure. Detective James Wilson, the lead lead investigator, began by interviewing friends, family, and church members, all of whom described Aliyah as a loving, faithful wife and a well-respected figure in the community. There was no indication that Aliyah had any reason to disappear or that she had planned to leave her husband. As they dug deeper into Marcus's behavior, the police found it odd that he seemed unnervingly calm, especially given the circumstances. He had not shown the kind of distress one might expect from a husband reporting the disappearance of his wife. His story was inconsistent with the facts. Aliyah's car was still at the house and her phone was found at the residence, which contradicted his claim that she had left. Investigators also began to focus on the domestic disturbance call from the night before, which suggested a more violent altercation. The fact that Aliyah had allegedly been in a loud argument and the atmosphere at the Hill home appeared tense indicated that her disappearance might not be a simple case of her leaving voluntarily. It was clear that the police had to look beyond Marcus's account and explore the possibility that Aliyah had been harmed in some way. The investigation took a devastating turn on April 16, 2021, when a tip led authorities to a secluded wooded area near County Route 23, approximately 2.3 miles from the Hill residence. There, in a dense patch of trees, Aliyah's body was discovered partially covered by pine branches. The discovery sent shockwaves through the community, and the search for answers intensified. Forensic experts quickly arrived on the scene, and it was confirmed that Aliyah had been the victim of a homicide. She had died from manual strangulation, and there were signs of a violent struggle at the scene, suggesting that she had fought her attacker. The position of her body and the surrounding evidence indicated that Aliyah had likely been transported there after her death. The wooded area was not a place she would have ventured to voluntarily, further supporting the theory that she had been killed elsewhere and her body dumped there. The news of Aliyah's body being found raised alarm bells for the investigators. Marcus's account of her disappearance now seemed even more questionable. They quickly realized that this was no longer just a missing person case, it was a murder investigation. After the discovery of Aliyah's body in the wooded area, investigators worked tirelessly to piece together what had happened leading up to her death. Several key pieces of evidence played a crucial role in establishing Marcus Hill's involvement in the crime. One of the first pieces of evidence found at the crime scene was tire tracks near the area where Aliyah's body was discovered. These tracks were consistent with the make and model of Marcus's vehicle, which raised immediate suspicion. Further analysis of the tracks confirmed that Marcus's truck had been at the location around the time of Aliyah's disappearance. This was the first indication that Aliyah had been transported to the crime scene by someone who owned a vehicle matching that description. In addition, forensic experts recovered blue carpet fibers from the ground near Aliyah's body. These fibers were linked to the carpet inside the Hill home. The fibers were distinctive and matched the carpet in the master bedroom, indicating that Aliyah's body had been moved from the residence to the woods, making it unlikely that she had died there. This suggested that Marcus had been involved in both the murder and the disposal of the body. Another significant discovery was a bloodstain pattern analysis conducted by crime scene investigators. The bloodstains on the ground near Aliyah's body suggested that she had struggled with her attacker. The pattern indicated that Aliyah had been forced into the truck or vehicle while she was still alive and then ultimately died at the crime scene. These findings were instrumental in establishing Marcus's connection to the crime, and they set the stage for what would follow in the investigation. With the discovery of Aliyah's body and mounting suspicion toward Marcus, investigators obtained a search warrant for the Hill residence. They combed the home for evidence that would link Marcus to his wife's death, and they found numerous critical pieces of evidence that suggested a cover-up. Inside the master bedroom, forensic investigators found bloodstains that had been partially cleaned but still visible. The stains matched Aliyah's DNA. The presence of these stains suggested that Aliyah had been attacked in the bedroom, possibly during the argument Marcus had described in his initial statement. The cleaning attempt indicated that Marcus had tried to hide the evidence of the violent altercation. Another significant discovery was made in the garage. There, investigators found traces of dirt and soil that were consistent with the area where Aliyah's body had been found. This suggested that Marcus had used his vehicle to transport Aliyah's body to the wooded area after her death. The soil was not something that could have been easily explained away, as it matched the terrain of the specific location where Aliyah's body was discovered. Additionally, in the basement, officers found several items that pointed to Marcus's premeditated actions. Among the items were garbage bags, cleaning products, and rubber gloves, all of which were purchased shortly before Aliyah's death. These items were particularly suspicious, as they were often used in situations where someone was trying to clean up a crime scene. The presence of these items at the Hill residence led investigators to believe that Marcus had been preparing for the murder in advance. After weeks of intense investigation and mounting evidence, Marcus Hill was brought in for questioning. Initially, he had maintained his story about Aaliyah leaving the house after the argument. However, with the overwhelming evidence against him, including the bloodstains, tire tracks, carpet fibers, and purchase of cleaning supplies, Marcus began to crack under pressure. During a recorded interrogation, Marcus eventually admitted to killing Aaliyah. He explained that the argument between them had escalated to a point where he lost control. In a moment of rage, Marcus strangled Aaliyah with his bare hands. He claimed that after she fell unconscious, he panicked and moved her body to a secluded area to cover up the crime. While Marcus's confession seemed like a breakthrough in the case, it was not entirely believable. His explanation of the murder was inconsistent with the evidence. For example, he failed to mention the cleaning supplies he had purchased or his actions after Aaliyah's death. His lack of remorse and his seeming detachment during the confession also raised questions about the authenticity of his remorse. Further, Marcus's behavior during the interrogation was considered telling. He was unemotional and made several contradictory statements. For instance, he initially claimed that Aaliyah had left voluntarily, yet he later admitted to having taken her body to the woods. This inconsistency reinforced the idea that Marcus was trying to minimize his responsibility for the crime. Despite the contradictions, Marcus's confession was an essential step forward, especially given the forensic evidence linking him directly to the crime scene. It marked a turning point in the investigation, and the authorities were now focused on proving his guilt in a court of law. Further investigation into Marcus Hill's financial situation revealed that he had been facing significant financial difficulties, which provided a clear motive for the murder. The police discovered that Marcus had been embezzling money from his job at New Hope Ministries, where he worked as an accountant. Over the course of several months, Marcus had siphoned off thousands of dollars to support his gambling habit and other debts. Additionally, detectives uncovered that Marcus had taken out a life insurance policy on Aaliyah shortly before her death. The policy, valued at $750,000, named Marcus as the sole beneficiary. This financial windfall was a major motive, and it suggested that Marcus had planned the murder to collect the insurance money. As part of the investigation, digital evidence played a significant role. Marcus's search history revealed that, in the weeks leading up to Aaliyah's death, he had researched topics such as how to clean up blood, how to commit the perfect murder, and how to dispose of a body. These searches were chilling and revealed premeditation, showing that Marcus had been planning the murder in advance. Moreover, text messages and emails between Marcus and various acquaintances were examined. In these messages, Marcus often expressed his frustration with his financial situation and his desire for a way out. The digital evidence painted a clear picture of a man who was desperate and willing to go to extreme lengths to fix his problems. Together, the financial motive and the digital evidence helped solidify the case against Marcus. It became clear that his motive for killing Aaliyah was not just a fleeting moment of anger, but rather a calculated decision to solve his financial problems through murder. On October 22, 2021, after months of investigation, Marcus Hill was arrested at his home. He was charged with first-degree murder, embezzlement, and fraud. His arrest came after a thorough review of the evidence against him, including his confession, the forensic evidence, and his financial records. The trial began in January 2022, and the prosecution laid out a strong case presenting evidence of Marcus's premeditated actions, his financial motive, and the damning digital evidence. The prosecution emphasized that the murder was not an act of passion, but a carefully planned crime designed to secure a large life insurance payout. Marcus's defense team tried to argue that the murder had been an accident or a crime of passion, but they had little evidence to support this claim. They were unable to refute the damning forensic evidence, Marcus's own confession, and the motive tied to his financial troubles. The trial concluded in March 2022, and after several days of deliberation, the jury returned a guilty verdict on all counts, including first-degree murder. Marcus Hill was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The conviction brought some closure to Aaliyah's family and the community that had been shaken by the tragedy. The case also raised awareness about domestic violence, financial abuse, and the dangers of untreated mental health issues, sparking discussions about how these factors can lead to such tragic outcomes. Please like this video to show your support. Your engagement helps us reach a wider audience, and the lessons his story has taught us about the dangers of toxic relationships and financial manipulation. We also encourage you to subscribe to our channel for more in-depth discussions and true crime stories. By subscribing, you'll be kept up to date on our latest content, including stories that explore the complexities of human nature, justice, and the pursuit of accountability. Finally, we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the sentences given in this case? Do you think the justice system is fair when it comes to cases involving wealth and influence? How do you feel about the role of Patrice Davis in the murder plot, and do you think her sentence was appropriate? Do you believe there should be reforms to the criminal justice system, especially in high-profile cases? Leave your thoughts and comments below, as we always love to hear from you. Your insights could spark important conversations about the future of justice. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to hearing your thoughts.